The next sutta is 7.6.59. The Buddha said, "Monks, be not afraid of deeds of merit. It is a name for happiness, that is, meritorious deeds. For well I know, monks, that deeds of merit done for a long time have a ripening, a blossoming, which is pleasing, joyous, and lovely for a long time. For 7 years I fostered thoughts of metta, loving kindness or goodwill, and then for 7 ages of the world's rolling on and rolling back, I came not again to this world. Then when the world rolled on, I reached the sphere of radiance. Then when the world rolled back, I went to Brahma's empty palace. Then, monks, I became Brahma, great Brahma, the conqueror, unconquered, all-seeing, all-powerful. 36 times I was Saka Deva Raja. Many times 7 was I, a wheel-turning Raja, just, righteous, conquering the 4 ends of the earth, bringing stability to the country, possessing the 7 gems. Monks, these were my 7 gems: the wheel gem, the elephant gem, the horse gem, precious stone gem, woman gem, house father gem, and minister gem. And I had more than 1,000 sons, valiant, vigorous, crushers of enemy hosts. And when I had conquered it, I dwelt within this sea-bordered country, ruling righteously, not needing rod or sword." That's the end of the sutta. And here the Buddha is saying that we should not be afraid of doing good. And the Buddha said he practiced metta meditation for 7 years. And then he, for 7 ages or 7 aeons or world cycles, he came not again to this world. This the world rolling on is the growing or the developing of the world, and the world rolling back is the decay of the world. This is what I presume. So the world rolled on and rolled back, and the world cycle. There are 4 stages. First, there is a void, emptiness, and then there is the developing of the world, the formation of the world. This takes a long time. And once the world has formed, then it exists for a long time. And then later it will decay. And that decay also takes a long time. And after it's finally completely decayed, then there's void again. So there's 4 things in the cycle, in the world cycle. Then the Buddha said he went to the sphere of radiance. That means his metta meditation, in his type of meditation, he has attained the jhanas, so that he can radiate metta, loving kindness or goodwill to all beings around. That's why he was born in the jhana plains. And from there he came down to the Brahma, became Maha Brahma, great Brahma. And later after that, 36 times he was reborn as Saka, a Deva king. And after that, when he came back as a human being, many times he was a wheel-turning king. Wheel-turning king is a king who rules the whole world. So from this sutta, you find the Buddha was talking about his past life. And in his past life, he had already practiced metta. So from the suttas, you find these Brahma Viharas, the 4 things for attaining rebirth in the Brahma realm. That means metta, goodwill or loving kindness, then karuna, compassion, then mudita, joy, and upekkha, equanimity. These were not created by the Buddha. They were practiced long before the Buddha. And the next sutta is 7.6.59b. Just now was 59a. This is 59b. Once the Exalted One was dwelling near Savatthi at Jeta Grove in Anathapindika's park. And early one morning, after robing himself, the Exalted One, taking bowl and cloak, went to the home of Anathapindika, the householder. And when he had arrived, he sat down on the seat made ready. Now at that time the people of the house were making a great noise and clatter. And when Anathapindika had come and saluted him and had sat down at one side, the Exalted One said, "Why, housefather, do the people of your house make all this din and uproar? It is just like fishermen with a great haul, it seems." And Anathapindika said, "Lord, it is Sujata, my daughter-in-law, who lives with us. She is rich and has been brought here from a wealthy family. She pays no heed to her mother-in-law, nor to her father-in-law, nor to her husband. Neither does she venerate, honor, reverence, nor respect the Exalted One." Then the Exalted One called to her, saying, "Come, Sujata." "Yes, Lord," she replied, and came and saluted the Exalted One and sat down at one side. Then said the Exalted One, "Sujata, a man may have these 7 kinds of wives." "What 7? "One like a slayer, one like a robber, one like a mistress, one like a mother, one like a sister, one like a companion, and one like a handmaid. These, Sujata, are the 7. And which of them are you?" And she said, "Lord, I do not fully understand what the Exalted One has put so briefly. Well, were it for me, Lord, if the Exalted One would teach me Dhamma, so that I may understand the meaning of the words spoken so tersely or so briefly by the Exalted One." And the Buddha said, "Then pay heed, listen, I will speak, Sujata." "Yes, Lord," she replied. And the Exalted One said, "Whoso is pitiless, corrupt in mind, neglecting husband and unamiable, inflamed by other men, a prostitute, on murder bent, let her be called a slayer and a wife. Whoso would rob her husband of his gains, though little be the profit that he makes, whether by craftsmanship or from his trade, or by the plough, let her be called a robber and a wife. The slothful glutton, bent on doing nothing, a gossip and a shrew with strident voice, who brings to low account her husband's zeal and industry, let her be called a mistress and a wife. Whoever, and with loving sympathy, just as a mother for her only son, for husband cares, and over his stored up wealth keeps watch and ward, let her be called a mother and a wife. Who holds her husband in the same regard as younger sister holds the elder born, the meek in heart, who in his every wish her husband serves, let her be called a sister and a wife. And she who is as glad her Lord to see, as boon companions long apart to meet, a gracious character of gentle birth, a fond helpmate, let her be called a companion and a wife. If fearless of the lash and stick, unmoved, all things enduring, calm and pure in heart, she bear obedience to her husband's word, from anger free, let her be called a handmaid and a wife. Now she who's called a mistress, slayer, thief, who's harsh, immoral, lacking in respect, when death comes will wander in the miseries of hell. But mother, sister or companion, slave, in precept long established and restrained, when death comes will wander in the happy heaven world. These, Sujata, are the 7 kinds of wives a man may have. And which of them are you?" And she said, "Lord, let the Exalted One think of me as a handmaid and a wife from this day forth." And that's the end of the sutta. So here we find the Buddha is trying to teach this young lady to be a good wife, and told her all the different types of wife a lady, woman can be. And so she, from that day on, she said she wants to be known as a handmaid and a wife. So probably from that day onwards, she changed her character. The next sutta is 7.6.60. The Buddha said, Monks, there are these 7 conditions fostered by rivals, causing rivals, which come upon an angry woman or man. What 7? Monks, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that he were ugly. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a handsome rival. Monks, this sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger, and however well he be bathed, anointed, trimmed as to the hair and beard, clad in spotless linen, yet for all that he is ugly, being overwhelmed by anger. Monks, this is the first condition fostered by rivals, causing rivals, which comes upon an angry woman or man. Again, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that he might sleep badly. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a rival to sleep well. Monks, this is the sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger, and in spite of his lying on a couch, spread with a fleecy cover, spread with a white blanket, spread with a woolen coverlet, flower embroidered, covered with rugs of antelope skins, with awnings above, or on a sofa with crimson cushions at either end. Yet for all that he lies in discomfort, being overwhelmed by anger. Monks, this is the second condition. Again, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that he might not prosper. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a rival to prosper. Monks, this is the sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger. Making a loss, he thinks, I have made a profit. Making a profit, he thinks, I have made a loss. Overwhelmed by anger, these things cause enmity towards others. They conduce to his ill and misfortune for many a day. Monks, this is the third condition. Again, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that he had no wealth. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a rival to be wealthy. Monks, this sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger. And whatever his possessions, earned by vigorous industry, got together by the strength of his arm, piled up by the sweat of his brow, gotten righteously and lawfully, Rajas will order them to be sent to the royal treasury, because he is overwhelmed by anger. Monks, this is the fourth condition. Again, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that he were without fame. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a rival to be famous. Monks, this sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger. And whatever his fame diligently earned, it falls away from him because of his anger. Monks, this is the fifth condition. Again, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that he were without friends. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a rival to have friendships. Monks, this sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger. Whatever friends, intimates, relations, and kinsmen he may have, they will avoid and keep far away from him, because he is overwhelmed by anger. Monks, this is the sixth condition. Again, there is the case of the rival who wishes thus of a rival. Would that on the breaking up of the body after death, he might be reborn in the untoward way, the ill way, the abyss, hell. And why? A rival, monks, does not like a rival to go to heaven. Monks, this sort of person, being angry, is overwhelmed by anger. He is subverted by anger, and he misconducts himself in deed, word, and thought. So living, so speaking, so thinking, on the breaking up of the body after death, he is reborn in the untoward way, the ill way, the abyss, hell. Monks, this is the seventh condition, fostered by rivals, causing rivals, which comes upon an angry woman or man. Verily, monks, these are the 7 conditions, fostered by rivals, causing rivals, which comes upon an angry woman or man. That's the end of the sutta. So this sutta is telling us, if we have a lot of anger, then we get all these losses. We suffer all these 7 things. Just as a rival would wish you, an enemy would wish you to have all these things, you will get all these things because of too much anger. The first one is a person, because of anger, becomes ugly. Every time we get angry, we become fierce. And we are fierce, we contort our face. And it shows on the face, and every day we do it, it becomes a habit. And the face becomes fierce and ugly. The second one, if you have too much anger, we cannot sleep well. Even if you lie in a very comfortable bed, you'll be tossing and turning on the bed. You can't let go of some angry feeling. Somebody did something to you, you get so angry, you can't sleep. So that's the second one. The third one, you cannot prosper. If you have too much anger, it conduces to your misfortune. Whatever business or whatever job you do, you cannot prosper. And the fourth one, you won't have, you can't be wealthy, because if you have too much anger, then you might make enemies of other people, like the Raja, and the Raja might seize your property. And this is a long time ago. And then another condition, you cannot be famous. Whatever fame you have, it reduces, it wears away because of your anger. And then another 6th condition is you won't have much friends. Whatever friends you have, and even relations, they will avoid and keep far away from you if you have too much anger. And the last one, if you have too much anger, then we conduct ourselves wrongly in bodily conduct, in speech, and in mind. And because of that, we will be reborn in the woeful plane of rebirth, to suffer. So these are the disadvantages of having too much anger. Now we come to another sutta, which is another very interesting sutta, 7.7.62. Once the Exalted One was dwelling in Ambapali's grove near Vesali. Stop here for a moment. This Ambapali is mentioned in some other sutta and the Vinaya. She was a very beautiful courtesan. Courtesan is a nice sounding word. It means a high-class prostitute. In the days of the Buddha, earning your living as a prostitute was not really considered wrong. And she was very beautiful. And she gave a piece of land to the Buddha to make into a monastery. And later in life, she renounced and became a nun. And in the Therigatha verses of the Arahants, she described her life, and she described how when she was young, she was so beautiful, and the hair was jet black and curly, and she described her skin was white and soft and all that, and all the different parts of the body. And then when she was old, she described how the body has become. And the way she described was quite moving, and how she became an arahant and all that. So that's Ambapali. Then the sutta continues. There the Exalted One addressed the monks, saying, "Monks, Lord," they replied. And the Exalted One said, "Impermanent monks are conditioners, sankhara. Unstable monks are conditioners. Insecure monks are conditioners. So monks, be you dissatisfied with all things of this world. Be you repelled by them. Be you utterly free from them." Let's stop here for a moment. This word sankhara, here we translate as conditioners. Some other books, they translate as conditioned things. But the actual word for conditioned things is sankhata. So sankhara We prefer to translate it as conditioners. Conditioners are those things that condition something else. But anything in the world, everything in the world are conditioners in the sense that they condition other things, but they are also conditioned things because they depend on other conditions. So conditioners are also in a way conditioned things. But the reason the Buddha, we feel, use it in the sense of conditioners is because in some other sutta, the Buddha said that all conditioners are impermanent. If everything that conditions, say for example, your body or your mind are impermanent, then if those things that condition you are impermanent, then all the more are you impermanent. Just like for example, a shadow of a tree. A shadow of a tree depends on the tree, but the tree is impermanent. Therefore, the shadow must be even more impermanent. So that's a difference. Now the Buddha continued. Monks, Simmeru, king of mountains, is 84,000 leagues in length, 84,000 leagues in breadth, 84,000 leagues immersed in the great ocean. It stands out above the waters of the ocean, 84,000 leagues. Monks, there comes a time when for many years, for many hundreds of years, for many thousands of years, for many hundreds of thousands of years, there is no rain. And when the rains come not, all seed life and vegetation, all trees that yield medicine, palms and giants of the jungle become parched and dried up and are no more. Thus impermanent, thus unstable, thus insecure are all conditioners. Be you dissatisfied with them, be you repelled by them, be you utterly free from them. I'll just stop here for a moment. In some other sutta, the Buddha mentioned that life depends on water. In other words, life depends on rain. All life on our planet is sustained by rain. If there were no rain, then life forms slowly will disappear. So here is mentioned when there's no rain for thousands and thousands of years, then all the plants all die up. And when the plants die, other life that depends on the plants also will die. And this fact that the Buddha said, life depends on water. Now science begins to realize this. That's why when they send these satellites to other planets, they try to find out whether there's any water on the other planets, because now scientists they realize if there's any water at all in the other planets, that means there must have been life there. Now the Buddha continues. Monks, there comes a time when in some age, at the end of some vast period, a second sun appears. When the second sun appears, all the streams and the ponds become parched and dried up and are no more. Thus impermanent, thus unstable, thus insecure are all conditioners. Be you utterly free from them. Monks, there comes a time when in some age, at the end of some vast period, a third sun appears. When the third sun appears, all the great rivers become parched and dried up and are no more. That is to say, the Ganges, the Yamuna, the Achiravati, the Sarabu, and the Mahi. Thus impermanent, thus unstable, thus insecure are all conditioners. Be you utterly free from them. Monks, there comes a time when in some age, at the end of some vast period, a fourth sun appears. When the fourth sun appears, all the great lakes from where these great rivers flow become parched and dried up and are no more. That is to say, the Anotata, the Siha Papata, the Ratakara, the Kana Munda, the Kunala, the Chadanta, and the Mandakini. Thus impermanent, thus unstable, thus insecure are all conditioners. Be you utterly free from them. Monks, there comes a time when in some age, at the end of some vast period, a fifth sun appears. When the fifth sun appears, the waters of the mighty ocean recede 100 leagues. the waters recede 200 leagues, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 700 leagues. The waters of the mighty ocean remain at a depth of 7 palm trees, of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, of merely 1 palm tree. The waters of the mighty ocean remain at a depth of 7 men's stature of height, of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, of merely 1 man's height, of just half a man, of merely up to a man's hip, of merely up to his knee, of merely up to his ankle. Monks, just as in the autumn time when the rain deva sheds big drops of rain here and there, in the footprints of cows there are puddles. Even so, monks, as mere puddles in a cow's footprints are the waters of the mighty ocean here and there. Thus impermanent, thus unstable, thus insecure are all conditioners. Be you utterly free from them. Monks, there comes a time when in some age, at the end of some vast period, a 6th sun appears. When the 6th sun appears, both this earth and Simaru, king of mountains, emit smoke, disgorge smoke, belch forth clouds of smoke. Monks, just as a potter's oven, when first lighted, emits smoke, disgorges smoke, belches forth clouds of smoke. Even so, monks, when the 6th sun appears, both this great earth and Simaru, king of mountains, emit smoke, disgorge smoke, and belch forth clouds of smoke. Thus impermanent, thus unstable, thus insecure are all conditioners. Be you utterly free from them. Monks, there comes a time when in some age, at the end of some vast period, a 7th sun appears. When the 7th sun appears, this great earth and Simaru, king of mountains, bursts into flames, blaze up and become a single sheet of flame. And the fiery beam of the blaze and the burn of the great earth and of Mount Sumeru, thrown up by the winds, reaches even to Brahma's world. The peaks of Mount Simaru, measuring 1, 2, 3, 4, and 500 leagues, as it blazes and burns, vanquished and overwhelmed by the vastness of the fiery mass, crumble away. Out of the blaze and the burn of the great earth and Mount Simaru, there is neither cinder nor ash to be found. Monks, just as out of blazing, burning ghee or oil, no cinder or ash is found, even so, monks, out of the blaze and burn of the great earth and Mount Simaru, neither cinder nor ash is to be found. Thus impermanent monks are conditioners, thus unstable monks are conditioners, thus insecure monks are conditioners. Wherefore, monks, be you dissatisfied with all things of this world, be you repelled by them, be you utterly free from them. I'll just stop here for a moment. You see, this sutta is very interesting. It describes very clearly how the world is going to be destroyed in the future. And this is the only sutta in the Nikayas which has this description, of how the world is going to be destroyed by fire. So when people talk about the end of the world, we don't have to worry because the second sun has not appeared. First, the rains must stop. The rains must stop for thousands and thousands of years. And then, when that happens, then slowly the trees start to die off. And then after a long time, a second sun appears. And when the second sun appears, the streams and the ponds dry up. And then after a long time, a third sun appears. And when the third sun appears, the big rivers, the Ganges, etc., all also will dry up. And then after a long time, a fourth sun appears. And when the fourth sun appears, the great lakes behind, even those behind the Himalayas, they will dry up. And then after a long time, a fifth sun appears. And when the fifth sun appears, the waters of the ocean begin to dry up until they become just puddles of water here and there. And then when the sixth sun appears, the earth starts to emit smoke. A lot of smoke starts to come out. And then when the seventh sun appears, the earth will start to burn, and burn up to the heavens, burn up to the Brahma's world. So This is very interesting because other religions also talk about the fact that the world will be destroyed by fire, but they don't give such a clear description as the Buddha. Now the Buddha continued. Now where is the sage, where is the believer who thinks this great earth and Mount Simeru will be burnt up, will utterly perish and be no more, save or except among those who have seen the goal? In days gone by, monks, there was a teacher named Suneta, a coarse setter who was free from all lustful passions. Now he had many hundreds of disciples to whom he taught the doctrine of fellowship in Brahma's world, and all they who grasped the word taught by Suneta in its fullness on the breaking up of the body after death were reborn in the realm of bliss, the Brahma world. But of those who did not grasp the word in full, some after death were reborn into the fellowship of the Devas who have power over others' creations. Some among the Devas who delight in creating, some among the Tusita Devas, some among the Yama Devas, some among the Devas of the 33 or Tavatimsa heaven, some in the company of the 4 royal Devas, some among wealthy nobles, some among wealthy Brahmins, and some among wealthy householders. Now Suneta, the teacher, taught thus: it is not seemly that I should have precisely the same mode of existence as my disciples after death. What if I were to make metta or goodwill become to a perfect degree? And Suneta, the teacher, cultivated the thought of metta for 7 years, and then for 7 world cycles returned not to this world. He arose in the sphere of radiance, that means in the jhana planes, in Brahma's sphere, as Maha Brahma, as Sakka Devaraja, as a wheel-turning king, endowed with the 7 gems. Yet monks, although Suneta lived so long and lasted such a time, he was not freed from birth, from aging, from dying, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair. He was not freed from dukkha, I say. And what is the reason? It was by not being awake to, by not penetrating 4 conditions. What 4? Monks, it was by not being awake to, by not penetrating Aryan right conduct. It was by not being awake to, by not penetrating Aryan concentration. It was by not being awake to, by not penetrating Aryan wisdom. And it was by not being awake to, by not penetrating Aryan release. Monks, it is just this. When Aryan right conduct is awakened and penetrated, when Aryan concentration is awakened and penetrated, when Aryan wisdom is awakened and penetrated, and when Aryan release is awakened and penetrated, the craving for life is cut off, the cord that binds one to becoming is destroyed, and there is no more coming to be. That's the end of the sutta. So in this last part, the Buddha is talking about Suneta, a course setter. A course setter means one of those religious leaders who start a new sect. In Chinese, I think it's called Kai Tao Se, one who starts a new religion. And it's mentioned here that he was freed from all lustful passions. Freed from all lustful passions. Even though this man Suneta, he had not become an Arya, yet the sutta says that he was freed from all lustful passions. And this shows that this man, because he cultivated the jhanas, he cultivated the Brahma viharas to attain rebirth in the Brahma world. So he had attained the jhanas. So just by attaining jhanas, one becomes freed of all lustful passions. That means the hindrances are abandoned. This is one of the suttas that confirms that when one attains the jhanas, the hindrances are abandoned. That means cut down. Although the roots are not pulled up, yet it's just like tall grass. You cut down the tall grass completely, even though the roots are not pulled up. Now the other thing mentioned here is that And all they who grasp the word taught by Suneta in its fullness on the breaking up of the body after death were reborn in the realm of bliss, the Brahma world. But of those who did not grasp the word in full, some after death were reborn into the fellowship of the Devas who have power over others' creation. Some among the Devas who delight in creating, some among the Tusita Devas, etc., etc., the lower Devas. So here it shows that grasping the word of the teacher is very important. Those who grasp the word of the teacher, then they get reborn into the higher state. So in the same way, the word of the Buddha is very important to us. It is very, very important to understand the Buddha's words very, very well. If you understand the suttas 100%, then you will get 100% of the result of the Buddha's teachings. If we don't understand the word of the Buddha, then we would get nothing out of being a Buddhist. So it is very important to listen to the discourses of the Buddha and understand them. So in the last part of the sutta, the Buddha said, it is by cultivating three things, Aryan right conduct, Aryan concentration, Aryan wisdom, and Aryan release, that a person ends the round of rebirths and destroys dukkha, suffering. Actually, the last part, Aryan release, is the result of attaining the first three. So it is the first three that's important. Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Moral conduct, concentration and wisdom. And these three things are also the Noble Eightfold Path or the Aryan Eightfold Path taught by the Buddha. So if we cultivate the Aryan Eightfold Path, all this Sila, Samadhi and Panya fully, then we attain full awakening, full liberation.